Nate G, 219 to help it back and better. Y'all know what it is. Another one coming at y'all. First, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out. Happy July 5th. Sorry I did not do a video yesterday, but on behalf, I do apologize, and happy 4th of July. Sorry it's late, but I had a lot of thinking yesterday. I didn't really get to celebrate the 4th of July activities. Well, I got a party tomorrow night, but that's a different one. Last night I had to be a big dad to a little baby dog. Well, he's not a baby, he's 3 years old, but he acts like a baby. He was terrified. He was terrified, and I was afraid he was just gonna start using the restroom all over the house if I hadn't stayed home with him. So my wife and daughter had went out, and they had went to a 4th of July party, excuse me, earlier in the afternoon, but, you know, by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, we were all ready to lay down, kind of had a family night. It was nice, you know, but, you know, throughout the day, I did have a lot of thinking I was doing, you know. 4th of July used to be my favorite holiday. When I was a kid, anybody I know growing up, you could ask them to blow something up, and I still like blowing things up. To be honest, I love blowing things up, but as far as like when I was a kid, I'm not as into being the one to make the display and stuff like that. Although tomorrow night I am going to be partially the one lighting fireworks. Just happens that way usually. I'm gonna go help out today to make sure everything's right and ready to go. But it's something that I was thinking about, and I remember sitting in Porter County Jail on a few different times, and there would be a firework display not too far from the jail, within a couple football fields, but if you were in a certain spot, you could definitely see it. Sorry, guys. You guys already know the allergies and stuff. I'm not going to even start to explain. But I just remember how depressing that would be, and how saddened I'd be. You know, yeah, kind of selfish, but that's realistic. That's some of the emotions you go through while you're in the prison system or in jail, whatever. My first time in jail on 4th of July was in 2001. I didn't get out till September 13th. I didn't go to jail on 4th of July either, but I was in jail over 4th of July. I was in jail that whole summer. And I remember thinking, I'll never spend any more time in jail, and then for a while I didn't. But, you know, life went on and things happened. I ended up being addicted to heroin, and it led me to dealing heroin, and I went to prison for just selling a very minute amount of drugs, but I did go to prison, and I ended up in Indiana State Prison. Now, for those that don't know, Indiana State Prison is one of the most infamous prisons in the country. I don't know why it's not more heard of. It's along the lines of an Alcatraz style, San Quentin style prison. It's where they hold Indiana's death chamber. It's for state prisoners, but that's where they take them to make them unalive, and they spend the rest of their lives there. And if it's commuted, a lot of times they still stay there, or some of them get to go other places, unfortunately, like Frederick Bear. I know we've talked about him. A lot of other bigger YouTubers have talked about him. But, you know, I'm going to talk about some of the people and some of the horrors that I had went through. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. Yes, I was affiliated, but I was not under rotation. So I was not gangbanging when I went behind the wall of the prison. I didn't start gangbanging. I went to the hole. When I went behind the wall of the prison, like I said, that's not where I started, okay? I started at a level 1 and 2, but ended up in the big boy prison where the real things happen. And they don't fist fight. They do not fist fight. They're about that knife play. They're about, if there's a fist fight, it's usually a sanctioned fist fight. It's usually within one's own organization, or it's one guy beefing with another organization, and it's just a simple beef. And if the heads talk and arrange it, certain affiliations will allow a one-on-one. Now, that's not going to happen with a lot of affiliations, because you come as one when you're a part of certain affiliations, no matter what the situation. You come as one. And now, them Latin gangs, as you know, do not play. Now, I'm going to talk about one of them Latin gang members. I had, as everybody knows, MS-13, worst gang, one of the worst gangs in the entire world, or country, if not world. Their number one rival, at least one of their number one rivals, is MS, or 18th Street Gangsters. The 18th Street Gangsters. Excuse me. Gosh. So the 18th Street Gangsters, to get in, this man that I had met, his name was Wassa Wassa. Gosh, I wish I knew his real name so I could tell you his real rap sheet. And all I could tell you is what I had witnessed and what I had been told. He had told me that he was there for shooting in the direction of a police officer, which he was given a 30-year sentence. 30 years, nobody was struck except him. He was shot. He was shot. But if he didn't hit the cop, 30 years sounded like a reasonable time, and never questioned anything about it. Especially, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Allergies are horrible. But Wassa Wassa was his name. Wassa Wassa meant no plaything. No plaything. Okay, one thing I'm not going to do is play with that guy. Especially coming where I came from. I came from a minimum security, minimum medium security. Yeah, things went down. There were a lot of fights. But it was not like this. You'd see people with a knife, but when I saw the knives, the smallest knife I had seen behind the wall was 10 times the size of the largest knife I had seen outside the wall. And there might have been a half a dozen, maybe more than that, because I know there were some out in the yard. People thought they had to have knives, and certain affiliations require you to have a knife. But at that level 1, level 2, it wasn't as... There was like 350 people there versus 2,500 people behind the wall. So you go behind the wall, that's where gang politics become a very real thing. And you run into real monsters. Now picture the most gangster you can ever meet. Not a very big guy, but maybe 5'9", 5'10", 150, 160 pounds, but I mean, dude was ripped up, like shredded. He'd sit in his cell and do workouts. I'm sure you guys have seen that guy that does those crazy prison workouts. Man, that stuff's real. People do that stuff. Now, he didn't have the room to do all the flips and stuff like that because he was in a 6x8 cell. I don't know if that was the exact measurements. I know I could reach across and touch both walls side to side. Not lengthwise, but it was maybe 8 feet. Maybe 8 feet, because you had the room for the toilet at the, yeah, maybe 6 by 8 at best. Yes, 6 by 8. So it's a pretty small cell. He didn't have the room to be doing backflips, because you could reach up and touch the ceiling too. I could, not everybody could, but I definitely could. I wouldn't be doing a flip if I was anybody. And he wasn't a stupid guy. Not at all. Now, the story I had heard is that he had 150 years to serve in El Salvador after he's done doing his time in Indiana. He did not want to go to El Salvador. He told me he does not want to go back to El Salvador. This guy had every single bit of the body that you could see, and when you're in a hole, he was stripped of all of his privileges. He was down to his boxers. That's all he was allowed to wear. So anything you could see was tattooed, except for his face and the teardrops and the upside down cross. So this dude was nothing to play with. And if you weren't okay with him, it was said, don't get by his cell. But for some odd reason, him and I had started talking. He realized that, he even told me, man, you don't belong here. I don't know what they got you doing here. He goes, it's not safe for you here. He would try to give me that blade just to make sure I'm safe, but I'm in the hole. I think I'm safe, right? Time out. First of all, time in. You're never safe. Never are you safe in prison. I don't care what prison you're in, you're never safe. And he kept on trying to get me to take a knife, and I'm like, that's the last thing I need. I'm in the hole now for, 8 months. I got sentenced to the hole, so I'm in the side pocket for at least a year, because you got to go to step down for 90 days. Now, because of my crime and my points being non-violent, and where I was, it was going to be very easy for my points to go down and me to hit population, which is a very, very good yet bad feeling, because good, you're not going to be on lockdown for 23 hours a day. Bad, because now you're in population, and 90% of the population is there for unaliving somebody, and or an assault of sorts, hard R's, all sorts of grapings, things like that. And not to add the violence that happens in there that's not reported. I mean, there's a lot more of that than there is even reported, unless somebody is stabbed up and loses their life. But I've seen people stabbed up and stitch themselves up. So one day I was going to take a shower, and I had a bad feeling. And when you have a bad feeling, you just tend to be on your senses a little more. Hold on a second, I'm gonna hit my douche stick. Nicotine, guys. No, I'm not on here using drugs. But yeah, you're on your spidey senses are up, right? Your spidey senses are definitely tingling, all right? Now, I was in the second cell on the east side of IDU. Like I said, intensive disciplinary unit. The guy next to me, his name, they called him Smoke. His name was Corey Gray. This guy's a creep. He's in prison for, I know it was unaliving somebody, but it was on some creepy stalker crap that he was tailing this girl, and it was over jealousy. And well, I had made the mistake and said, yes, I will take a rec partner, that I'm not afraid to take him as a rec partner. Now, well, if I said if I was afraid to take him as a rec partner, I was going to look weak. I didn't want to look weak. Well, I never was directly told that this guy was who he was. I mean, I knew he was known for assaulting guards and that he was off the chain a little bit, but I remember being pulled down to the LT's office. He never warned me. I signed a waiver that I'm okay, I'm not afraid. Well, everything was fine there for a few weeks. And then rec came. Alright, so you lock down 23 hours, actually 22 and a half hours a day because if you have a rec partner, and this is why they try to push having a rec partner in that specific part of the prison, which is now closed, by the way, but at that time, and this was in 2014, yes, 2014, this is summer of 2014, 10 years ago around this time. I'm in that section, and I get through these spidey senses tingling, and smoke comes running in the shower, like, but I had felt the presence, and you got to picture these showers. They're steel cages, like steel bars, and it's a big wall, and when they come in, there's not another place you can get out. There's an entrance to the showers, which if I remember correctly, there's 2 shower heads. Like I said, it was 10 years ago, but there were 2 shower heads. But usually everybody respected each other and took showers at separate times. That's why there was, instead of 23, it was 22 and a half. So each person had 15 minutes for the shower. So while that was happening, I turned around because I felt presence coming at me. He was turning the corner, walking in the shower, and I start closing the gap, going towards his chin, and I missed that chin, but I was I mean, hopefully that chin would have knocked him out, but here's this little ugly guy, he had no chin, it was all sucked in, so it's probably why I missed. I actually could have hit the chin, but slid off and hit his throat, but this noise he made, it sounded like a wild turkey or something. Scared the crap out of me, but he didn't fall. But I saw a knife fall, and I hit him again. That's when he fell, and I'm okay. Picture this. This is a black guy, fully clothed in a shower with a butt-naked white guy on top of him, beating him. There is a knife on the ground, but the knife's not being used. So the guards come running around. Now the OIC, or the officer in charge of that unit, was at that point in time, I don't know his name, but I called him Terror Squad. This dude, I'm not even kidding you, looked just like Fat Joe. And he comes running around like, what's going on? They're pulling tasers. I get up as soon as I see them, and he's making these noises, and I get off, I grab my towel, still butt naked, I walk out of the cage, and I close the door, and lock him in there, and, you know, they're like, get to your cell, get to your cell. I get to my cell, I say cell, I believe it was 104, I believe it was 104, because after first I was in 149. Now I'm gonna tell you that one next. This is I'm working backwards. This is what happened to me and my experience on the east side of IDU. Actually, this is gonna be a 2-part video, I think. No, we'll see. But you know, I go back to my cell, and ended up he had robbed me, and he had done so by, it's real easy to get tools to pull certain things. What he took was my TV, and my TV was broken. It's still, the sound worked, but he was trying to rob me is what it was. And I don't know if he was going to try to stab me and grape me then stab me, do it all at the same time. I wasn't sticking around to find out. That was where that fight or flight instinct, even if you had the flight, you were gonna get. If I had that flight instinct, I don't know that I'd be sitting here telling this story. But got off of them, went back to my cell. I got a C write-up, which was 2 weeks phone privileges or 2 weeks commissary privileges. And, you know, when you're in the hole, people don't like to answer the phone. A lot of times your rec is at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody wants to answer the phone that time in the morning. I mean, 2 weeks phone, they give you a choice. So I took phone. But back to Wassa Wassa. Now, Wassa Wassa stayed in the cell above me, but one over, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly which way over. I think it was over towards the front. Now, this dude had managed to make a machete. And I'm not talking some tin bending. It was made out of solid steel. And this man did so by taking fingernail clippers. Now, when you get fingernail clippers in prison, at least in Indiana, the part that cleans your nails, that's not there. So you gotta, the handle, you know how thick that handle is. You have to sharpen that handle on the concrete floor, and then you start to make your knife. So he carved his machete out of the end of the bunk, which was out of a steel slat, you know, it's like a triangle piece of steel. And I'm talking solid steel. It's the width of the bunk, comes from the wall to the other side of the bunk, holding the bunk up. And he carved a machete out of it, and he sharpened the machete. You can hear that machete sharpen for weeks upon weeks. Just every night. Every night. He knew when he could, he knew when he couldn't. This man was not stupid. So, one night, man, this Latin King, now, I guess there was a beef between him and another Latin King, and this Latin King came from the same prison I came from. Time out. Time in. So this other Latin King, I remember his name was Mike. King Mike. That's what they called him. King Mike. He came from Lakeside, which is the level 1 and 2. If I remember correctly, he was either there on a burglary or some drug things. But whatever it was drug related, and the drug to be meth exact. And apparently while he was in the prison, he found himself into some major debt, into some major people. So almost all of the major people come back to one major crew. That crew is a very, very organized Latin crew, or Latino crew. I'm not gonna mention the name, but you know when you deal with anybody that's amongst that crew. And the 18th Street Gangster, Wassa Wassa, was not a part of that crew, but his crew was associates of the bad crew. So King Mike got too close to that cell, and because of somebody else's failure because of, no, this is, Mike screwed up at the other camp, and he actually checked in and went behind the wall. So when you check in, it means that you run for your life. I'm afraid for my life. I don't want to pay my debts. Well, he had gotten involved with some major people. I mean, there's those major people at every prison, and they're just not so violent. They just have other people do their violence. King Mike got too close to the cell one day. He never even knew he had a problem with Wassa Wassa, because Wassa Wassa played the friend card with him, which I was cool with Wassa Wassa, but I always knew that this isn't something that, no, I knew I hadn't done anything wrong to violate any prison code whatsoever. I knew my paperwork's right here, it's good, like you see everything, page 1 through every whatever, it's in order. That dude stabbed Mike. Dude stabbed Mike in the front, somewhere, I don't know exactly where, but it came out his back, just like in the movies. I heard the scream, and I don't know exactly what happened. All I know is there was just this waterfall of blood coming down in front of me that I can't even describe. It's forever embedded into me. I can smell it still talking about it. Actually, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about the first one. I'm going to keep it quick and sweet. So, when I was on the west side of IDU, this is just a little prior to that, still the summer of 2014, there was this guy that had just came into the hole, this young black cat. He was part of the Gangster Disciple organization, which I previously was affiliated with, a part of the Gangster Disciples. I was an insane Gangster Disciple. I've renounced, I don't do any of the gangbang, and I'm done with that. And it's just not part of my life no more. Got a wife, a kid, family I take care of, mortgage I pay. I mean, did I think 15, 20 years ago that this was going to be my life? No. But hey, man, it is. So one night, it was 1:30 a.m. So rec movements start at midnight. Like I said, they're an hour and a half. They're 90 minutes out. So every 90 minutes is a new rotation. The first group comes out at midnight, goes in at 1:30, second group comes out. 3 o'clock is count. So at 1:30, second rec group came out, and like I said, they had said, okay, they'll be rec partners. And the young black kid, apparently, I was asleep when it happened. I was in cell 149, which is the furthest cell away from the police that you can get, besides the one above me, the next cell over, you know, a foot over, you know. I think it was cell 251. I was in 149. It was all odd numbers, so 147, 149. The next cell was the shower, which I did not like at all. It was loud down there, but it was also away from the police. But one night, 1:30, I just start hearing this. I thought Bam Bam was working out. Bam Bam was the white guy. Bam Bam was an Aryan, and Bam Bam had some stripes to earn, I guess. So all over a lie, they had said that the young black kid had raped a white boy. The young black kid was only in prison for a 30-day parole hold. Bam Bam started whooping the kid. And I woke up and I opened my curtain. They didn't allow us, but they didn't really say much. As long as they could look in and see that there was a person in that cell and that person was alive, you're in a single man cell, they didn't really care if you had a curtain up. And they'd keep the light out, whatever. So I opened my curtain and Bam Bam's beating this dude up. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm gonna watch this though, just it's a fight. I don't know what's going on. Next thing I know, Bam Bam starts stabbing him. Like, Bam Bam, I don't know if he had the knife the whole time. I don't know. Oh no, you know what? He reached down at one point and pulled the knife out of his sock and then started stabbing him. And stabbing him in the head, poking, just, I mean, it was, I'm just like, oh my, like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I said, not only did I wake up to this, I look over and the thing that rings out the most is that the phone was dangling. So I'm sure started calling home, you know, because I knew the night before because you got 72 hours before you get a rec partner, and he's just that phone dangling, man. I'm picturing his mom or somebody on the other end. The entire side of the cell house is screaming for help. This young black kid is running from Bam Bam. At one point in time, Bam Bam had bent the blade and reached down, straightened the blade out on his leg, commenced to start stabbing him again. Alright, so Bam Bam's, I'm not sure what they call it, but his shot caller that was in charge of Bam Bam called him off, and Bam Bam already had his cleanup gear ready to go in the shower. Bam Bam got the knife to that shot caller, and the knife got flushed, and Bam Bam got in the shower. The only thing that happened was that Bam Bam maxed out his time, and the only thing that meant was he got like 93 extra days or something, and 7 days of that was in the boom boom room, which was an even smaller cell. It's a padded cell. You gotta pee and poop in a hole in the floor. They flush it every few hours. You ain't got no control of nothing. You eat the loaf. That's, you know, say you got scrambled egg. It's just all the food on a tray, blended up, like combined. It's just a nasty, nasty thing. Nasty, nasty thing. And that's just a couple of the very violent things I've seen that I still have nightmares of today, guys. I went in for selling $20 worth of drugs because I had an addiction. Over an addiction. Now, yeah, there was a point I was selling a little bit more, but I don't know, kingpin or nothing. Most of it was like wholesale stuff. Like, I'm buying this much to give to these 8 people, these straight 8 people. And I had a list that I was given to give these 8 people this amount of dope. But never forget life's choices, guys. Never forget life's choices, because all those wrong turns, they do lead to one place only. It's prison. Well, I guess the second place, that's the graveyard. But I promise, you go to ISP, you're passing a graveyard on the way to prison. It's up to you. It's up to you and you only. But hey, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out. This is Nate G219 signing out. If they ain't hating it, you ain't making it. Deuces.